If you've been here before, welcome back. If you haven't been here before, hello, my name is Tats. I am a full-time paralegal. I hold a degree in criminology, a master's degree in legal studies. I'm an adjunct professor of law. I am not, nor will I ever be, an attorney. So I cannot give you legal advice. Anything I say on my content, my comments, or my lives is my opinion and my opinion only. If you need the services of an attorney, you can reach an attorney in your area. If you cannot find one in your area, you can email me at tatsandjen@gmail.com. And I'll get you whatever resources I may have. So what Tennessee Kid is referring to is this. There we go. This is finally on Amazon. So if you've been waiting for a physical copy of my book, this is now on Amazon. You can search Inside a Criminal Trial, or you can search it by Tats and Jen. So this is live over on Amazon, $17.99, and it's also a available Kindle. For those of you who are waiting for the audiobook, I am not quite there yet. So right now we've got it on my Stand store. If you want an ebook, there's a Kindle and a hard copy or a paperback available over on Amazon. And if you do buy it on Amazon, please leave an honest review. If it sucks, I want to know that it sucks, because my second book is about 90% done, and that should be up next month. It should be on the Stand store, and then it just depends how long Amazon takes to appreciate or to approve that one. Mike's Law 1 is in the house. How are you, sir? Hi, Tats. Wow, what's going? We have Aileen up. Yep, we're going to do a walkthrough Aileen Wuornos. This is going to be a little bit different case study than we usually do, because obviously this is an older case. All I want in return is a signed copy of the new book. I got you, Tennessee Kid. Did you already send me your address? If not, email me your address and I got you. I just ordered my author copies, though, so you're going to have to give me about a week. Okay, so let's start. Aileen Wuornos, what do you guys know about her? I'm really curious to know this before we start. What do you guys know about Aileen Wuornos? Just put 2 or 3 sentences or 2 or 3 words in the chat of what you know about Aileen Wuornos. Victim from birth. I agree. Nothing. Amy Care Ferris. Love that. Know nothing about her. Mindy. Love that too. Have you watched both docs by Nick Bloomfield? Laura. Yes, I have. And I have some excerpts from that tonight. She offered Johns. Yeah, she was a prostitute. You feel bad for Lorianne. Tonight, you're probably going to identify with her a little bit more. And I don't mean that in any way bad, because she was an admitted prostitute. But I feel like this story is so timely right now. Nothing at all, Mike's Law. Oh, I hope you can hang out a little bit, my friend. Don't know much, but super curious. Okay, so she took men's lives. Yes, she did. She killed 7 men. She worshipped the devil, wore pieces of skull. Nope, Jake, that's the wrong one. I think you're talking about, you might be thinking of Jonathan Gerlach, but we'll get to him. As soon as he's in court, we'll get to him. Broken child, turned her hate on men. Absolutely, 100%. Nothing. I am absolutely shocked. Traumatized, abandoned, and lovesick. Mike, you are spot on that. She did have a rough start. That's to say the least. Wow, I'm shocked at how many people don't know about her. And I'm excited now, because I felt like this was going to be regurgitory. I didn't mean to gross you guys out by using that word, and I don't know where it came from, to be quite honest with you. So let me just tell you where I learned about this case. So Aileen Wuornos, you can see on there, committed 7 murders between 1989 and 1990. She was arrested in 1991. I graduated high school in 1990. Do the math. I'm 54. You guys know I'm not shy about telling you my age. In 1991, when she was arrested, I was actually getting my criminology degree at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. So this was very timely for my studies in getting that degree. And it was a big deal, because they touted her as the first female serial killer. We know now that's not correct, but she was the first in modern history. We can say that, right? And it was the first female serial killer on court TV. And this was televised. So it was a big deal when she was arrested. But what I want to go through tonight is kind of like the lens of Aileen Wuornos, because it was really easy back then to damn her as, how dare you kill these men? That there was very little sympathy for her. There was very little information on her background. That didn't come out until after she was convicted. I want to go a little bit into her counsel, her legal counsel, because she was represented in her one and only trial um, by a public defender. No shade on public defenders, in case my friend, an attorney, but not yours, is in here. But that public defender did take a lot of heat, and I'll get into that just a little bit. So tonight I am going to give you a little bit of a lens of Aileen Wuornos, and then if there's interest, we can really start to dig in to what I feel like were mistakes that were made in her case, that her appeals should have looked like, and certainly where the men in her life let her down. Okay. So we're going to start by giving you a little bit of background on her. And then we will stop as needed and take questions. And I'm so excited that a lot of you don't know about this case. I really thought everybody knew. There's a lot of people who call her mother. And the last video that we're going to watch, you'll hear her refer to herself as mother. And she's kind of like the mother of women not taking rape, not taking sexual assault from men without fighting back. You followed her story. You saw the movie. I will say I have not seen Monster yet with Charlize Theron. I have not seen it. Jules, I know I owe you. I promised Jules that I would watch it, and I will watch it. I haven't. Yes, Wendy. I totally agree with that. She was way ahead of her time. Now, look, just like with Luigi, I do not agree with vigilante justice, right? Sexy Twerker, are you still in here? Because I would really like to open up a conversation when we're done about parallels between this and Luigi Mangione case. I know it sounds really weird because this is rape and murder, but I'm hoping that once I put it all together for you, you can kind of see those parallels. Yeah, Sexy Twerker, I thought about you when I put this together. Not like that, but I was really kind of drawing parallels when I started listening to her. And you guys are going to listen, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but you guys are going to hear that tonight from her mouth. So a lot of the video that I put up tonight is directly from Eileen's mouth. There's plenty more out there. I think there's 10 clips tonight. Like I said, we're video heavy. Just so that you guys can kind of understand the process that she went through. And then the last video, we're really gonna have a conversation about when we're done. All right, let's talk about the murders. So she murdered 7 men in Florida between 1989 and 1990. First man that she murdered was Richard Mallory. She was found guilty at his trial, or at the trial regarding his death. That is the only trial that she really had. And I have her testimony. She pled self-defense. Big T, are you in here? She pled self-defense, took the stand. Her testimony is going to be kind of rough. So let me just give you her last interview where the guy stuck his filming so that she didn't curse her. Yep. Oh, that wasn't the last one, Sexy Twerker. I have that one. But I have the one from before that was the day before she was executed. That's what we're going to end on tonight. So hopefully you can hang out with us for a little bit. So yeah, she took the stand. She pled self-defense. She was found guilty, and just like we're doing in the Horner case, her trial was bifurcated. So the jury did find her death penalty eligible and issued the death penalty. These next 3 are very interesting, and we'll get into why she did this. She pled no contest at the David Spears, Tony Burris, and the Charles Humphrey cases. She pled no contest, and that jury also gave her 3 death sentences back to back. And then she pled guilty to Charles Carskadden and Walter Antonio, which gave her 2 more counts of the death penalty. So when this all shook out, she had 6 death penalties assessed against her. Peter Sims, which she confessed to killing him, and they did find her palm print inside his vehicle, but they never found his body. So she was never brought to a trial or had a plea to that at all. But she did confess to killing him, and like I said, her palm print was inside his vehicle, but they never found his body, so they never brought her to trial on that. All right, let's talk about her background, which we talked about just a little bit already in the chat. She was born to 2 underage parents. Her father was in prison for kidnapping and ended up committing suicide while in prison. Hang on. No, I'm not going to take it. Sorry. That was my secretary. I was going to answer the phone and put her on live, but I've threatened to do that to her before. But no, we'll just send her to voicemail. I'll talk to her later. Okay. So her father was in prison for kidnapping, and ended up committing suicide in prison. That's the other thing. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. I know I ain't saying nothing you are already quite aware of. Oh, I missed something, Noli D, on that. But oh yeah, if you guys could drop F1s for me, because I'm going to be talking about some pretty serious shit in here tonight. That would be great. At age 1, her mother left her with her and her brother to be raised by her grandparents. She was subjected to violence by both her brother and her grandfather. So one of the pieces of video that I wanted to show you and then decided not to. Yeah, we already got an I just got not a ban, but I got a restriction. I got reason, mental health. Okay, probably because I used the S word. We'll try to use that self-unaliving word. So for the next 10 minutes, I am not on the FYP. So if you guys would not mind tapping your little hearts out, you already have 23,000 taps, and I appreciate that from all 269 of you in here. Thank you, Jimmers, for educational only. That's all right, Nolly D. That's okay. We do love TikTok shop in here. But I knew that was a potential tonight. But I think this is too important not to tell this story. Or this history lesson, I would prefer to call it. So let's start this slide over again. She was born to underage parents. Her father was in prison for kidnapping, and he self-unalived in there. At age 1, her mother moved to Texas and left her and her brother to be raised by her grandparents. She was subject to violence by both her brother and her grandfather. That's what I was getting at. In her sentencing, in her with Richard Malloy in her first bifurcation trial for whether or not she was eligible for the death penalty, that she did have people testify on her behalf, and they talked about the abuse that she suffered at the hands of her grandfather. They also talked about the SA that she suffered at not just people in the neighborhood, that she was trading that for food and cigarettes and shelter, but also her brother. So I was going to put that on here, but again, tonight I wanted it to be Eileen's voice that you guys heard the majority of. But it is out there if you wanted to look at it. It's a little bit disturbing for me, not just the content of what they were saying, but kind of how they were saying it. Just kind of matter-of-factly, they had people from her neighborhood who testified about basically using her for sex and then pretending they didn't know her when they saw her in public amongst, the public and their friends. Just kind of, cast aside by society, but used by society whenever they found it right. Again, some themes that we find in our everyday lives these days, unfortunately. Okay, so Aileen got pregnant at 14, which was a big no-no to her parents or grandparents who were raising her. So not only did they force her to give up the baby, but they then kicked her out of the house. So at age 14, she was trading BJs and sex for food, cigarettes, and a place to stay. And at that point, she started thinking about going to Florida, simply because she was living outside. She was laying in the snow. I believe that she was raised in Michigan, but it could be Missouri. It was a cold state. I know that. And she decided she was going to go to Florida first chance that she got, because if she was going to live outside, she needed it to be warm, and she was sleeping in the snow. Your son worked on the movie Monster Orange Twist. That's amazing. That's amazing. I would love to talk to him just to see what his info is on that. Okay, so pre-conviction. She had a very short marriage with a 70-year-old man. She was arrested for DUI and did some time in 1974. Did anyone have any information on her child? Good question, Wa, because that's the number one thing I thought of. Like, I wonder where that child is now. I do not. Orange Twist, tatsandgin@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of me. Adoptions back then were usually kept very private. Agree, Gina. I agree. I wonder if the child knows. That's the other thing that I was thinking. Red Gypsy. Where is this child now? So basically, so she would have been. I mean, that child would probably be in its early 60s. But I don't even have a gender on the child. They just forced her to give it up. But I'm thinking if they haven't looked yet, that they probably, hey, Taya, how are you? It's nice to see you. I'm so glad you came in. Bridget, hello. Nice to see you. I'm guessing if that baby doesn't know yet, it probably doesn't know now and probably won't, right? She did have a self-unaliving attempt in 1978. She was convicted of armed robbery in 1982. She had a prolonged engagement in prostitution and extortion at the time of her arrest, and she was in a very long-term relationship, very loving relationship with Tyra Moore. That ended up being her downfall, and we're going to get to that next. Why I wanted to put this in here was I wanted you to understand they had her prints on file. She had been arrested a couple of times before, if not more than just these two times that she ended up in jail, but they did have her prints on file. They had her mugshot on file. You'll understand what I mean by that when you hear from Aileen herself what she thinks happened in her cases. So she was, at the time she was arrested, she was given the Damsel of Death timeline of terror or moniker. So you can see here, her first victim was Richard Mallory, and that was her first trial, her only trial. That was in November of 1989. In June of 1990, David Spears was her next victim. Also in June of 1990, Charles Karskadin. July of 1990, Peter Sims. That's the one they never found his body, but she did admit to it. August of 1990, Troy Burris. September of 1990, Charles Humphreys. And then November of 1990, her last victim was Walter Antonio. All right, let's get into the trial. So, Florida versus Wuornos, her first victim, Richard Mallory. She met Mallory November 30th, 1989. He picked her up. So again, she admits she was a professional prostitute. He took her to his business, an electronics shop. She testified that he raped and brutalized her, and she shot him in self-defense. You're going to hear her testimony tonight. And again, trigger warning, because that testimony is it's graphic. And it's going to shock you. It is absolutely going to shock you. What the jury did not hear is that Mallory previously was convicted of sexual assault and served 10 years in prison. And that is one of the huge criticisms of her public defender, is that her public defender did not even try to admit that as evidence. So I know that in one of her thank you, Orange Twist and Sandy, for those gifts and those hearts on my head. In one of her appeals, that was brought up, but we'll get to her appeals in just a moment. All right, so before I play this, I want to give you some background. Aileen Wuornos was actually arrested on an FTA warrant. Well, they didn't tell her that she was being arrested on suspicion of murder. They took her in on an FTA warrant that was about 4 months old. When they arrested her, they put her in the car and basically booked her on that warrant. When she was in jail, they were still trying to build the cases around her, but they were coming up, in my opinion, short on evidence. So instead, they got with her girlfriend and said, we need your help. And if you don't help us, we are going to call your family members. We are going to find some way to tie you in on this, and we're going to arrest you too. And so the girlfriend finally agrees after they did just that. They called all of her family members. They said, what do you know about this? What do you know about their whereabouts? Oh my God, that little kitty is so cute. Thank you so much, Taya. I appreciate that. What do you know about her family, or what do you know about her involvement? Do you think her girlfriend was involved in this? And so she calls Aileen, or has Aileen call her from the jail, and she's very, very upset, and you're going to hear exactly what that call entailed.
Dixon, they're coming after me. I know they are.
Sorry.
Dixon, they're coming after me. I know they are.
No, they're not. They're innocent.
They've got to. Why are they asking so many questions then?
Honey, listen. Do what you gotta do, okay?
I'm gonna have to because I'm like gonna go to jail for something that you did. This isn't fair. My family is a nervous wreck up there. My mom has been calling me all the time. She doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Okay. Do what you gotta do, okay? Alrighty.
What?
I'm not gonna let you go to jail.
You evidently don't love me anymore. You don't trust me or anything. I mean, you're going to let me get in trouble for something that I didn't do?
I said I'm not. Listen, quit crying. Listen.
I can't help it. I'm scared shitless.
I know. I love you a lot.
I don't know whether I should keep on living or if I should...
No, Ty, listen.
What if they don't believe me?
Tyra, listen.
What?
I'm not going to let you go to jail or anything. Listen, if I have to confess, I will.
Okay. Yes. Why now did you do this? Why did you do this?
I don't know. Listen, Ty.
What?
I'll probably never be able to see you. You know that?
Yes.
I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will.
Okay.
So don't worry, okay?
Okay.
I love you.
No. We'll do it now. Get it over with.
Right this very moment?
Yes. Get it over with.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
You can
right
call
this
me
very
back
moment.
later.
All right.
All right. Okay, bye.
All right. Thoughts? Immediate thoughts? And Taya, yeah, listen, I don't condone vigilante violence. I say that all the time with Luigi's case as well. But I think understanding her state of mind is something that didn't happen when she was in prison back in the 1990s. So I know that she's no longer with us, but I think there's a lot that we can learn from this. Sexy twerker entrapment, very sad. Did you notice that Aileen was telling her that she loved her, but Taya, not Taya, Taya did not tell her that back? Did you notice that? Yeah, Mike. Yeah, and there was some evidence that her girlfriend was involved. Hey, Samsy, thank you for that heart on my head. Mork Files, nice to see you. Thank you for that heart on my head. The only love she had was even betrayed by love. You're going to hear more of that in the future, in the some other videos we're going to watch. Yeah, totally betrayed. She never said I love you back. Yeah, Montana Squirrel. Oh, she knew for sure. I think and she was involved too. I think so as well. All right, so let's move forward. This is going to happen almost immediately after that phone call with her girlfriend. And this is her confession. Again, this might be hard to hear. So if you've got earphones, go ahead and put them in or just turn your volume up the whole way. But I have my volume up the whole way. If this ever gets too loud, you guys just let me know.
She told me, detectives were at the house, my family, she was crying her eyes out. My family's getting all messed up. I didn't do anything. You got me involved in this jazz because that car that got wrecked. You need to go and tell them that you did it and get me straightened out on this. And I suggest time, okay, I did. That's what I did. Because I don't want to hurt family or hurt it. That's what I did. And I'm going to miss her. She's a real good person. So sweet and kind.
Okay, what do we think of that confession? This is the confession that was played at trial. Insufficient? Okay, sexy twerker. What was insufficient for you? It seemed very forced. What I didn't like about it, Alexis, is that she said, the reason I'm here is because I told my girlfriend I would come do this. So confessions need to be voluntary and freely given, right? You can't have coercion, whether it's from the police or somebody else. And, by proxy, the police were putting pressure on her girlfriend. So is this a coerced confession? Again, brought up at trial. It brought up again in her appeals. They're saying what a great person Ty is. Yeah. Lacking in details. Good point, sexy twerker. Yeah. She told them she was there to protect her girlfriend. Right. Exactly. her girlfriend threw her under the bus. I don't know about that orange twist. I don't think I would go that far, but I do think that she was manipulated by the police. I do think that. So why did she admit someone, not others? She actually admitted all 7 of them, Nicole, but she said that all seven of them were self-defense. Taya's my favorite superhero. Yeah, we all love Taya. Thank you, Taya, for all those roses. Appreciate it. All right. So we're going to move on here, if my computer will let me. All right. So this is Eileen's testimony at the trial for the death of Richard Mallory. Once again, I'm going to give you the trigger warning. This is going to talk about some really, really graphic things. Taya, thank you so much for all those flowers. I appreciate it. I don't think her lawyer fought hard enough. Yeah, Gina, her lawyer at this point was Terry. Oh, I can't remember the last name, but they were public defender and they were highly criticized for this. But her next attorney, you guys, what he did is gonna blow your mind. So just hold on to your criticisms because you're gonna need some more for him. Her lawyer sucked. Yeah, actually, multiple lawyers sucked for her. I've also felt sympathy for her, even though I've never understood it all. Yeah, look, like I said, I don't condone vigilante violence, but I think if we don't take a step back and try to understand the mentality of what happens when vigilante justice happens, in this case, in my opinion, she got pushed too far. She had been a victim all of her life, and she decided one day, and you're going to hear her say it, that she wasn't going to be a victim anymore. And if even part of this testimony is true, you guys, I'm just floored at what one human will do to another. So without further ado, and again, trigger warning, because this is going to talk about some really horrific stuff. So mods, if you would drop F1s every now and then, or say that we love TikTok shop. And this, I think, is about 6 minutes long. Do you think if someone helped her that her life course would have been different? Oh, Nicole, she actually said that herself. In one of her post-conviction interviews, she said if she would have thank you, Jimmers, if she would have came from a loving family that had support and like even when she got pregnant, if somebody would have just supported her instead of kicked her out, she would have had a much different course of life. Yeah. What men have no problem doing to women. I hear that. Thank you, Savage. Appreciate that. All right, let's go ahead and listen to Aileen here.
Arlene adopted Lee just before her first trial for the murder of Richard Mallory.
Okay, so that voice that you're hearing right there, that is Nick, the filmmaker. Oh, starts with a B. His last name starts with a B. Somebody in the chat had it earlier. He is the filmmaker, the documentary on Aileen Wuornos. And Arlene is the woman, her and her husband adopted Aileen when she was arrested so that they could claim her body, basically. Somebody could claim her body when she was put to death. That's not the only thing that happened with them, and I will get into that, especially with Arlene, but you will hear her referred to as Lee. So Aileen also went by the name Lee. So when you hear Lee, it's Aileen. Is there a difference, by the way, the alleged female killers and prosecutors versus male? In my opinion, Taya, at this time in the 1990s, this was night and day. Yes, that we have to make an example of her. How horrific that a woman would actually do this. Yeah, I believe so. We haven't really had a female serial killer since her. So I wouldn't know that. I would think this time, like if we look at how Lorena Bobbitt was treated, I think if Lorena Bobbitt had committed her crime now, that I think there would be more empathy for her. And again, but that empathy does not mean that you're condoning the act, but you understand where it's coming from. I think Lorena Bobbitt took a lot of heat for what she did without anybody trying to take a step back and understand her mental status at the time. And I think that happened with Aileen Wuornos as well. Lorena Bobbitt, yeah. Thank you, Gina. Appreciate that. All right, I'm going to play this testimony now.
At this stage, her lawyer was Trish Jenkins, a public defender who has been criticized for failing to bring to the court's attention the fact that Mallory had previously served a 10-year sentence for attempted rape. Many think it was Mallory's alleged rape of Lee that started her off on her killings.
He put the cord around my neck, and he said, "Yes, you are, bitch." He said, "You're gonna do everything I tell you to do, and if you don't, I'll kill you right now, and I'll fuck you after, just like the other sluts I've done." And then he said, "It doesn't matter to me. Your body will still be warm for my huge cock." And he said, he was choking me and I was holding it like this. And he said, "Do you want to die, slut?" And I just nodded no. And then he said, "Are you gonna listen to everything I've got to say? Have you do?" And I just nodded yes. And he told me to lay down on the car seat.
Okay, what happened next?
Then he began to start having anal sex. Okay. And he's doing this very violent manner, movement. And then I don't know if he came or climaxed. I talk street talk, so I don't know if he did that. And he violently took himself out and violently put himself in my vagina.
Were you saying anything to him at that point?
No, I was crying my brains out.
Okay, then what happened?
All right, so he takes the Visine and he lifts up my legs and he puts what turns out to be rubbing alcohol in the Visine bottle, and he sticks some up my rectum area. And that really hurt really bad because he tore me up for a while. And then he put some in my vagina, which really hurt bad. And then he walked around back to driver's side and he pulled my nose open like this. Pulled them open and he squirted rubbing alcohol down my nose. And he said, "I'm saving your eyes for the grand finale." And he put the Visine back on the dash. And I was really pissed. And I didn't care. I was yelling at him and everything else. He was laughing away, saying, "That's what I want to hear. I love it when you start crying and all that pain." I thought to myself, I gotta fight, I'm gonna die. This guy is gonna play with me, and then he's gonna kill me. He's already said he's gonna kill me. He's already said he killed other girls. I gotta fight. I jumped up real fast and I spit in his face. And he said, "You're dead, bitch, you're dead." And he's wiping his eyes. And I laid down real quick and I grabbed my bag. And he was starting to come for me. And I grabbed my bag and whipped my pistol out toward him. And he was coming toward me with his right arm, I believe. And I shot immediately. And I think I shot twice, as fast as I could.
Lee had expected to be acquitted, but then Judge Blunt took the unusual move of allowing evidence of the other 6 murders to be presented.
Until by warrant of the governor of the state of Florida, you, Aileen Wuornos, be electrocuted until you are dead. And may God have mercy upon your course.
Scumbags of America.
All right. What do we think of her testimony? I think so too, Melissa. I think so too. You're going to hear something about her regulars that you guys are not going to like. I'm just going to warn you that right now. Yeah, Karen Pett, I think, hey Stan, nice to see you. I think it's believable. She went into such great detail, right? She didn't just say he was trying to and then I shot him. She went into such great detail. Taya, yeah, that I agree on that. Bringing in the other 6 murders into this trial, again, one of her appeals, which we will get to. Very authentic. I thought so too, sexy twerker. What did she do? I'm so sorry. I just came in from work. Okay. Laura, this is the case of Aileen Wuornos, who in between 1989 and 1990 murdered 7 men in Florida. She was touted as the first female serial killer. We know now that that's not correct, but it's the first in modern history, so to speak, the first on court TV. And she was given 6 death penalty sentences as a result. And so we are rewatching this. She was put to death in 2002 in Florida, but we're watching this in the lens of the abuse that she had from basically birth up the all the way up until she was arrested and convicted for these. And then I want to show you some testimony or some interviews from her post conviction. So this is the first trial. This was the first victim, Richard Mallory. There was a lot of this that I haven't shown you physical evidence wise. Number one being what was in his car that corroborated her story. And a lot of physical evidence that they found in Mallory's car, namely on the steering wheel, that indicated there was some sort of struggle. What did the judge say? The judge said that he sentenced her to death by at the basically when the governor signs the order that she's to be executed until she's no longer living, and may God have mercy on her corpse. That's what he told her. I wonder how she chose, why she didn't kill every man that she encountered. Good question, Nicole. They do think, in hindsight, that Richard Mallory's treatment of her and what he did to her kind of triggered this spree, so to speak. He had no mercy. No, he did not. So I found her testimony authentic. Was it enough to justify 2 shots? I don't know. That first shot, certainly. If he was telling her he was about to put rubbing alcohol in her eyes, I think I would have done the same thing. I think I probably would have done it earlier when he was doing other things to her. But again, the other thing I want you guys to kind of remember, and I should have told you this before I played the video, is what she looks like right now, physically, because I want you to kind of see the toll. This was in 1992, I believe her trial was. So you figure she was on death row for 10 years before she was executed. All right, let's move on. So, as I said, she received 6 separate death sentences. Let me go into a little bit, and I thought about putting some of her second attorney on here. His name was Steve. Not a very good attorney. He advised her to plead no contest to 3 of the murders. So that would have been the David Spears, the Charles Karkskaden, and the Troy Burris and the Charles Humphreys. She pled no contest to that and simply had basically what's going on right now with the Horner trial down in Texas. She had a jury that was going to decide whether or not she got the death penalty. She had already admitted guilt, but she had a jury that was going to decide the death penalty. He advised her to give those pleas. Now, let me give you a little bit of, let me just fast forward a little bit, because you're going to hear from Aileen after her convictions about movie deals and book deals. And it turns out that Steve was so focused on selling her book rights that he wasn't focused on being her attorney. He just wanted to get those book rights out. So there was another appeal on that. And actually, some of the testimony in that appeal came from the documentary person who you heard on that. So he told her, I think you should plead no contest. And I think we should mitigate your case in front of the jury to try to get a life sentence instead of another death sentence. But really, when you look at it, what does she have to lose? She already has one death sentence from the first trial, right? Turns out she had a lot to lose with that. And the fact that behind the scenes, he was negotiating these deals that Aileen got very little money for. Did they ever look into the background of these men to corroborate her? So the first man that she murdered, Richard Mallory, was in jail for 10 years for sexual assault for rape. That was not brought up at her criminal trial, and her attorney then, that was the public defender, was criticized wildly for not bringing that up. And actually, it was part of her appeal process. So the next 3 cases, she pleads no contest and ends up getting 3 additional death penalties. Then she pled guilty to the final 2 and again received 2 additional death penalties. So at the end of all of her pleas, she ends up with 6 death penalty sentences. Her trial was on Court TV, Karen Pat. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Okay, so this video, this is during her appeal process, you're going to hear her talk again about Arlene. Remember, that's the woman who adopted her as her mother, and her husband adopted her as well. Thank you so much, Melissa. I appreciate that, party pony. You're going to hear her talk about her, and you're going to hear her talk about Stephen. And then you're going to hear some other stuff that we will talk about afterwards. So I don't want to take the words out of her mouth. The reason we're all here is to hear from Aileen, right? I think the girlfriend should have been held more accountable. I agree with that, Mallory. 100%. I agree with that. Heather, thank you for that paper crane. All right, I'm going to let you listen to this, and then we're going to discuss it.
So
It's been a struggle to actually see you.
I know. Yeah. Did you have any problems with Arlene?
With Aileen?
Yeah.
It's been a little tough going.
Yeah.
With Aileen. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you know that we had?
Yeah, she told me about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said a couple of things to Aileen.
Yeah.
And I hope you got all the money and everything.
I don't care about the money. All I care about is the crooked cops.
Well, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was why, in a sense, why the money, in a sense, was important to you, because you can't. How much can you spend here a month?
Not very much, and the money is not. But it seems like it might be to you people.
No, I was just wondering if, because presumably most of it goes to Aileen or Steve or whoever.
Arlene and Steve seem to be the money-hungry people, yes.
Because
And I'm having a problem with Arlene and Steve, and I do believe that's their purpose, their main purpose. And I do believe that's their main purpose, see me die.
Because I have to be honest with you, I told Aileen I thought she was very mercenary. That's what the bottom of our argument was.
Did you pay them more than $10,000?
No.
Okay, I wanted to make sure on that too, because I don't believe them. I have my doubts about Arlene and Steve. I believe that Arlene and Steve are... I have a problem. I can't discuss it right now, especially on camera. Steve is doing a lot of work in the media, and so is Arlene. And they're both really pissing me off because I think their motive was just to make money. I just can't go any further in that. Because I'll do it later, just before I go or something.
Well, how much did they have to do with you changing your defense as well? To do with you changing your
They did it. They convinced me. I'll give you an example, and this is what's really pissing me off, is when they wanted me to plead no contest, Steve did, and Arlene started it, I think, and Steve just kind of fell in. But Arlene kept conniving, why don't you plead guilty, don't go through all these trials. I can't take it anymore, all these trials.
She couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah. And you know, your mother, you're killing your new adopted mom now with these trials and stuff. And if you don't go to the trials, the cops won't have anything for the movie. And I found out that it didn't matter, because the day that I pleaded no contest to Marion, there was a big write-up in the front page about the cops doing their movie anyway. So it didn't make a difference. Too late, I already said it. They convinced me that the cops would not be able to do their movie, have any access to this movie, because they needed the trials to go through. Arlene and Steve have both suggested how I could kill myself. That's not very motherly, is it? I mean, they both suggested it. It's not very motherly nor very lawyerly, is it? And even giving me some ideas. So that's pretty sick. I know they're not on my side. But it's too late. Now all I need to do is slide through the rest of these stupid trials, Pasco, Dixie, find me a real good detective and a real good investigative reporter to go out and figure out what's going on, find out that I'm telling the truth and they're lying, and find the evidence. And once you've got evidence, I can get a new trial, and I need to go to a new trial through the Supreme Court.
And what about before all this happened? Did you...
You mean before the crimes themselves?
Yeah.
I was doing fine until Tyra told me start going to see strangers and make more money. That's how I wound up in this situation.
But you'd been working as a prostitute for a while before then, hadn't you?
I was doing real good monetarily. Yeah. I was making hand over fist of money. I was doing real good. The only problem that happened is when Saudi Arabia came in, all my clients started going to Desert Storm and going to the bases and training and getting ready to go overseas and do that deal in Kuwait. And so I lost a lot of my regulars, and Tyra told me, well, why don't you go out there and do your strangers again like you did from the beginning when I started hooking. And I thought, you know, I can deal with my regulars I have now, but I only make about 100, 150 a week.
Did you feel that Tyra was into it for
But Tyra wanted me to
well?
bring in 700 or 1,000 a week. What?
Did you feel Tyra was into it for money as well?
Well, now I look at it, yes, definitely. She was using me monetarily. So was my first lover before Tyra. I bought her a pressure cleaning business and everything, and she took off 2 months after I bought it for her. And everybody seems like they just care about the money. They don't care about me. Aileen Wuornos killed 7 people. She deserves to die. Who gives a darn? Let's make some money and forget about her. But that's not the point. I say it's this. The principle is self-defense. They say it's the number. I say it's the principle. The heck with what... It has nothing to do with the number killed. It's the principle. But they're saying, if there's a number, no. Self-defense is self-defense no matter how many times it is. I don't care if it's 100 times. I never provoked those guys. I never provoked them. I never showed any provocations whatsoever. It was very nice, very decent, very clean, very ladylike. I didn't even swear in front of my clients. And a lot of my clients, I talked about Jesus and I talked political, both mixed together, and we never argued. So there was no provocation whatsoever. There was no need for them to look for the closest weapon in the vehicle and try to use it on me to rape me. 2 did, 5 tried. If you guys can look for the Republican pictures contract. You've got it right there. If you can find it, that will set me a new trial for a Supreme Court.
The Republic pictures?
Yeah, Republican pictures. That's where they're working at. Overkill movie. If you can find the contract, they're dead meat.
What you're saying?
Made up in their mind. She's a serial killer. We're gonna, even if she's innocent, we don't care. We're gonna make the public believe she's a serial killer. But anyway, that's what said. That you're gonna 2 things you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to get the public to believe that she's a serial killer, and you're gonna have to get her convicted in order to get this movie to go. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care of yourself. I hope to see you soon.
What do you think of that? What do you think of that? You've got her attorney telling her, just plead no contest. You've got her mother working in concert with her attorney saying, I can't go through another trial. And on the back end, they're signing contracts to get a movie deal, but she has to be convicted and she has to be a serial killer. Totally. Yeah, sexy twerker, I agree. So The man that you saw there briefly, who's doing this documentary, he was actually called as a witness in one of her appeals because her attorney told him on the way to the jail to advise Aileen to plead no contest, he smoked 7 joints. It was a 7-joint ride. That's what he told him. So, and then they tore it apart. They tore his footage apart by saying, but look, there's 2 different shirts. Didn't you edit this? Well, then when he went back to the unedited version, which they didn't ask for, the unedited version showed the attorney changing his shirt halfway through. Like, but when they get to the prison, he changed his shirt. Exactly, sexy twerker. She was disposable. Listen, all she wanted. Yeah, I knew you were going to make some parallels because you are smart. You and I have the same brain. All Aileen wanted in her life was for someone to love her the way that she loved them. And instead, every time that she loved someone, like her girlfriend or this woman who adopted her as her mother, they took advantage of her. And she just kept, that toxic cycle just kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And it's one thing to say a toxic cycle when you're dating somebody and you're picking the wrong people to date, right? Or you're working at a job with a toxic boss. But it's another thing to say when a woman has this toxic cycle that started from an abandonment wound very young and being abused by the only men she knew in her life. And then she is literally fighting for survival. She is literally trading the only thing that she thinks she has that's worth anything, which is her body, to men for money, for cigarettes, for food, for shelter. And when you look at it through that lens, she was failed so many times. And the next video I'm going to show you is really going to piss you off if you understand that lens that she lived her entire life through. She just wanted someone to love her the way that she loved her girlfriend, the way that she loved that woman who adopted her as a mother. And instead they're using her behind the scenes to get book deals and movie deals. All right. And once again, yeah, I hear you. I hear you, the J-Con. And once again, I do not condone vigilante violence. I'm simply saying that there are mental health issues at play here that were not addressed at the time of this. Okay, so there's a turning point that came with her that just came abruptly. She fired all of her attorneys. She stopped all of her appeals, withdrew every single one of them, and then begged to be executed. She had reached her breaking point. Anna Jones, this is Aileen Wuornos. She is the most recent female serial killer. She was arrested in 1991 for murders of 7 men between 1989 and 1990. She was tried in 1992 and put to death by Florida in 2002. Yeah, I agree. Rubies for horses. Yeah, the fact that she could trust anybody at any time. Yeah. Her last meal, Savage, are you talking about the morning of when she had a cup of black coffee or the night before when she had Kentucky Fried Chicken with her girlfriend? Still powerful. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, listen, when you guys hear the video I'm going to play from the night before or the day before, I think it was the day before she was executed. Look, she went out swinging. She went out swinging. And so let me... Oh, no. Okay. I'm going to have to call an audible here because somehow this did not make it into... You guys have to see this video, and it did make it into the slideshow. So this is a great time to go pee or get a glass of water or... Hey, how are you, Paranormal? Nice to see you. Yeah, Tyra betrayed her and it was her only true love. Yeah. But did you hear what she said, Mike? Even the woman, her lover before then, she bought her a business and she left 2 months after she did that. So, she equates, love with money and taking care of someone financially. And all she wanted in return was someone to just love her. All right. You guys ready? So remember what she just said about the book deals and the movie deals that were going on behind her back, and people who were selling the rights to her own story, and she got very little of that money.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the most unpleasant things I've ever had to do. And I'll read to you a release. On November the 10th, 1992, Major Dan Henry resigned as Chief of Staff of the Marion County Sheriff's Office after being notified of an investigation being conducted by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The investigation was requested by Sheriff Don Moreland and Sheriff-elect Ken Ergel after information was received by the Sheriff's Office from Attorney Bill DeCarlis in behalf of his client, Deputy Bruce Munster. The investigation being conducted by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement centers around taped telephone conversations made by Deputy Munster between he and Major Henry involving the Aileen Wuornos case.
All right, let me tell you what that's all about. What that's all about is the police officers involved in Aileen Wuornos' case were conspiring to sell the book rights before she was even convicted. They resigned from their post during an internal investigation, and that's what he's announcing right now. They resigned from their post, so they were never disciplined for it. And whether or not they profited off of it, we don't know. But they were selling book deals and talking to Hollywood about a movie deal before she was even convicted. And if that would have happened, if that internal investigation would have come back positive with evidence that this was going on, and that's what Aileen was talking about. You need to go into Republican Pictures and get that contract, and they'll be cooked. Her conviction would have had a strong possibility to be overturned. And those are the cops. You're right, Mike. Those are the cops that were working on Tyra to get her to confess. Sexy twerker. You and me, I'm telling you. Just like Joel Seidemann and PA got off scot-free so far. Right? And Detective Leonardi and Detective Ortiz. So that was very important. I'm sorry that didn't make it into the slide deck, but that was an important part of her story, especially when you hear this interview that was done the day before she was executed. So you guys remember what she looked like. Let's go back real quick. Even here in this interview, she still looks very taken care of, shall we say, put together. But remember what she looked like on the stand.
Aileen
Just a
adopted
little bit. This is her first trial. That's what she looked like on the stand. And this is after 12 years on death row. 12 years. 12 years.
Because I didn't do anything as wrong as they said. I did the right thing. And I saved a lot of people's butts from getting hurt and raped and killed too. They're trying to make it look like I was crazy at all times, rig up the room with torture. If I said anything about I think their whole plan was trying to make it look like I was totally crazy. And so nobody would believe anything I had to say about anything. And then drive me there if they could. I suffered so bad. I was really struggling to survive. Had a lot of trays that were attempted murder and everything. I had to wash all my food off. And then one day I didn't wash my food off and I was sick for 3 weeks, almost died. I'm okay. I'm okay. God is going to be there. Jesus Christ is going to be there. All the angels and everything. And, you know, whatever's on the beyond, I think it's going to be more like Star Trek, beaming me up into a space vehicle, man. Then I move on, recolonize to another planet or whatever. But it's whatever's the beyond, I know it's going to be good because I didn't do anything as wrong as they said. I did the right thing. No, I'm not going to get in depth about my cases, Nick. I'm on my way to the chamber, nothing stopping it. You can believe it or you don't have to believe it. That's up to you, man. Put a big question mark on your film.
We met with your mother, Diane.
You met with my brother and Diane.
Your mother.
Oh, my mother, Diane, let me tell you something. She plopped me out of her belly, left me with my grandparents, and we never knew her. So tell that damn whore I could give a fuck if she even had me. She had me and left to Texas. And my mom, my dad, Barry, Keith, Lori, all of us never saw her ever again, except at funerals. My mom's funeral, my dad's funeral, and my brother's funeral. And if she's at mine, probably be spitting on her. Care less. I don't give a damn about that whore. I don't know her. I never even knew her.
She asked you for your forgiveness.
She can go to hell.
There's pain right there.
She doesn't have any of my forgiveness. I don't even know her, don't even want to know her. Remember, let them know that I know that the cops knew who I was. After Richard Mallory died, I left prints everywhere, and they covered it up and let me kill the rest of those guys to turn me into a serial killer. I know they did, because I was no professional serial killer or anything, or murderer, or whatever you want to call it, you know. I wasn't professional at what I was doing.
Eileen,
I did some sloppy work, you know, and I left
How have you...
My only interview concerns are about cops letting me kill. So if you don't ask me about that, I'm going to cut this interview. Ask me about the cops.
What more do you want to say about the cops?
A lot of stuff. Did you know that they were surveilling me before I killed? And then I knew it? And that it was covered up? Did you know there was helicopters dropping down from the sky, deputy sheriff, with decoys picking me up 4 or 5 months before my arrest? It was covered up?
Let's say the cops were following you.
Yeah.
Let's say they were following you and they did everything that you're saying they did. Nonetheless, you killed 7 men.
Yes, you did.
And I'm asking you, what got you to kill the 7 men?
And I'm telling you, because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't you get it?
Not everybody is killing 7 people. So there must have been something in you that was getting you to do that.
Oh, you are lost, Nick.
So
I was a hitchhiking hooker.
Right.
Running into trouble, I shoot the guy if I ran into trouble. Physical trouble. The cops knew it. When the physical trouble came along, let her clean the streets, and then we'll pull her in.
But
That's
how come
why.
there was so much physical trouble in because it was all in 1 year? 7 people in 1 year.
Oh, well.
But why not say now?
Because I'm out of retaliation for taking my life like this and getting rich off it all these years in total pathological lying. Yeah, thanks a lot. I lost my fucking life because of it. Couldn't even get a fair trial. Couldn't even get a fair investigation or nothing. Couldn't even have my appeals right. You sabotaged my ass, society, and the cops, and the system. A raped woman got executed. It was used for books and movies and shit. Ladder climbs, the re-election, everything else. I got a big finger in all your faces. Thanks a lot. You're an inhumane bunch of fucking living bastards and bitches, and you're gonna get your asses nuked in the end. And pretty soon it's coming. 2019, a rock's supposed to hit you anyhow. You're all gonna get nuked. You don't take fucking human life like this and just sabotage and rip it apart like Jesus on the cross and say thanks a lot for all the fucking money I made off of you. And not care about a human being and the truth being told. Now I know what Jesus was going through. They've been trying to tell the truth, and I keep getting it stepped on. Concerned about if I was raped, I'm not giving you book and movie info. I'm giving you info for investigations and stuff, and that's it. We're gonna have to cut this interview, Nick. I'm not going to go into any more detail. I'm leaving, I'm glad. Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass. Okay, let's go. You dirty son of a bitches. Took a raped woman and sent her to, well, you sent her to God, but you're gonna get your nuke someday soon.
Hey, Aileen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm just reading your comments. Yeah, Taya. Iraq, but not Iran. Yeah. Actually, I think she said Saudi Arabia. And that was when we were in Desert Storm and Desert Shield. Wasn't it? Wasn't that deep? I mean, call Aileen Wuornos what you want, but dumb is not what she is or was. She knew what was going on. Are you speechless? Yeah, that's I think that's a side of Aileen Wuornos nobody ever knew. Right? I think so, Deba. I also think he apologized because he was part of that money-making scheme with Stephen at first until he figured out that he was doing more money-making than lawyering for her. Exactly, Savage. At the time, everyone wrote her off as crazy. But now in 2026, so 24 years after she was put to death, and she begged to be put to death. And let me tell you something else that happened. Jeb Bush actually gave her a stay of execution that was less than a day because they wanted her evaluated by a mental health professional. They wanted her evaluated by a mental health professional to ensure that she was competent enough to be put to death. That evaluation took 15 minutes. 15 minutes. So the next time you have coffee with your friend or meet your friend at a out for drinks at a happy hour, I want you to time yourself for 15 minutes and see if you can even tell your friend what's new, what your day was like, let alone tell a psychiatrist your entire life story, the abuse that you suffered from age 1 all the way up until the time of your incarceration, and then after the time of your incarceration at the hands of police, at the hands of your lawyer, and someone who is supposed to be helping you document your story. 15 minutes to decide whether or not she deserved death, Mike. Yeah. Huge fail. To say that Aileen Wuornos fell between the cracks, and I did see somebody, Savage, I think it was you, say, why didn't the BAU talk to her? That is a great question. That is a great question because we have the BAU talking to the Long Island serial killer, right? Why not? Why didn't they want to talk to Aileen Wuornos? Why not keep her alive to study her like they did Charles Manson? And they're doing with the I almost called him the Go-Go 4, with the Long Island serial killer, right? But here's the other irony, and this is a little tongue-in-cheek, but you realize that if Aileen Wuornos lived in New York instead of Florida, she may have taken care of Rex Heuermann for us. Let that sink in. Because his prey was hookers, right? Was prostitutes, was streetwalkers, sex workers. And that's where she was getting her. That was where she was getting her her victims. Sorry, didn't mean to blow your mind. Isn't that a wild thought? All it took was a little bit warmer weather in New York, and Rex Heuermann would have possibly been one of her victims. Taya. All right, so this is the last one that I have for you.
At 9:47 this morning, the case of the state of Florida versus Aileen Wuornos was carried out at Florida State Prison in a very professional and humane manner. During Aileen Wuornos' brief 1-minute final statement, she alluded to the fact that she would be sailing away with the Rock. She'll be back with Jesus Christ, like on Independence Day, on June 6th, just like the movie, on the big mother ship. I'll be back, I'll be back.
And those were her last words. I agree, Sexy Twerker. One thing I will say is in her trial, you heard them say that she was going to be electrocuted. She was actually given lethal injection. Same thing, different type. Depending on how humane you think that is. Ain't nothing professional with the DP. I'll never believe it. I just can't. Thank you, the J-Con. I appreciate that. Wow, that was pretty. Appreciate that. Thank you. So that's the last I have. I will take questions or discussion or whatever you guys want to talk about. Taya, here's the thing. Everything in hindsight is easy, right? We're armchair, or what is it called? Armchair or Monday morning quarterbacking here, right? But I think that we can see how many failures there were. And remember this time frame, this is 1990s, early 1990s. We just had Rodney King. We just had the LAPD go through their extensive overhaul because of Rodney King, right? We just had the riots in LA because the police were found not guilty or not liable. So this time frame of holding police accountable it wasn't really going on, because what they were telling us was happening in LA really wasn't happening. They were telling us that to calm us all down. So now we've got these officers selling a story, and she's claiming that they knew who she was after the first murder. And remember, her prints are on file. She was arrested for DUI. She was arrested for armed robbery. Prints are on file. Mugshots on file. They found her DNA, or not her DNA. They found her prints in the first victim's vehicle. So is there credence to what she's saying? And the fact that they're making book and movie deals on the back end, but she has to be a serial killer first, and she has to be convicted. Then she shows up with this attorney who convinces her to plead no contest to 3 additional. I mean, at some point you have to like stop saying no, she's just crazy. Like, that could really, I mean, she's really starting to put those pieces together for me. Yeah, imagine that, Taya. The police investigated themselves and there was no wrongdoing. You know what? I investigated myself on the scale this morning and I found no wrongdoing as well. Diane, it's such an interesting case. And again, I was doing my criminology degree at the time of this actual case, like the time this was going on. And I don't want to say it was just this case, but definitely this case was included. My final project was a report on serial killers. And even back then, the report that I did on her did not nearly touch everything that we touched tonight with her abuse and, the mental anguish. And certainly we didn't know about what was going on behind the scenes with her attorneys at the time. It's always me, Diane. Your scale is broken and it lies. Yeah, I hear that. Fascinating. Yeah. So listen, if this was fun for you guys, or if it was too traumatic, that's fine. Just let me know. I'm happy to pull cases like this that happened so long ago that everybody's forgotten about them, but I think that have a lot of resonance today. Right, Melissa? I think if she were to be convicted in 2026, I think it would be a very different type of conviction at this point. Pam ABR, yeah. It was totally fun. She's always been She is fascinating. She is fascinating. I was kind of sad when she gave up all of her appeals. It just seemed to me like at that point she had had enough. She couldn't take any more. I doubt, and I've said this before, the intersection between our criminal justice system and specifically our Bureau of Prisons and mental health facilities and treatment options are non-existent. So I'm sure that she was not getting the mental health that she needed. I even, if you look at her outbursts in court, when her verdicts came down, she definitely needed, at the very least, anger management, right? And I doubt that she even got that. You want more? Okay. Any other woman SK is famous. Plenty. Probably not women murderers, but plenty women that I could bring in. Is that what you want me to do? You want me to do like a woman panel? That's why she would have gotten treatment for mental health, right? Right. Yeah, Susan Smith, Casey Anthony. Look, Casey Anthony and I still have a, if you go back far enough in my videos, when Casey Anthony had her brief stint on TikTok, I actually I challenged her to go live at the same time with me. So maybe we should skip that one. Nikki, thank you for that follow. I enjoy knowing history like this, majored in history and thinking what changed and what hasn't. Yeah. So let me ask you something with what happened last week coming out with that Rape Academy story coming out through CNN and looking at what, yeah, me too, Marky. Thank you, Alexis. So this is, and you guys tell me if I'm way too far off the mark, right? But I'm looking at Aileen Wuornos, who got pushed and pushed and pushed and then started fighting back, right? She had been sexually assaulted so many times. She had been beaten so many times. She'd just been pushed her entire life, and she started fighting back. And then she gets arrested and she's basically crucified as how dare this woman take our men, right? So am I the only one drawing parallels with the social construct of this case and the article that came out through CNN last week and the Luigi Mangione case? Yeah, exactly. She fought back the only way she knew how. Trying to remember what CNN said that there's a rape academy out there, sexy twerker, that houses videos of men drugging their partners and committing sex acts with them, then videotaping them and putting them on the internet. And then not only are they doing it that way, but they're teaching how to do that. Tanya, and it had 62 million hits in February and 89 million in March. I can't help but wonder if she had one person advocate for her, if things would have been different. Rubies for Horses. There are other, of course, I could have went on and on. I could have went on and on with her post-conviction interviews. But she does say if she would have been brought up differently, she would have had a different life. But all of the abuse, she never had a chance. Wow, Nicole, that's amazing. I can't help but wonder. Yeah. All right, you guys. You guys have been amazing. They enrolled their kids in the wrong public school and were incarcerated for it. Wow. Yeah, sexy twerker. So that is like the social construct that I was kind of making, that, you know, when you look at Luigi being held up as the person kind of doing a social justice allegedly on healthcare, right? On healthcare and health insurance companies and how they administrate their claims, and you know how he's being, depending on who's looking at him, and he hasn't been convicted yet, so it's all alleged, right? But how he's being hailed by one part of the conversation and demonized by the other, right? So when you look at Aileen Wuornos, she is hailed by those of us who are sexual assault survivors, and as you guys know, I fit into that category, because we understand being pushed that far, right? But on the other side of it, meaning law enforcement and men, she's being demonized. Does that make sense? And I'm just wondering, thank you, Tay, I appreciate you saying that. I'm just wondering if anybody else is looking at that sort of lens. Like, is she, I'm not saying she's a trendsetter by any stretch of the imagination. Final time I'm going to say this tonight. I do not condone vigilante justice, but I can understand getting pushed to that point. Just like with Luigi, allegedly, if he did do it, because he is 100% innocent as he sits now. If he did it, I can understand being pushed to that point. Doesn't mean I condone it. I can understand the mental aspect of it. Our law enforcement here punched a young lady in the face. I think somebody sent me that video, Lorianne. I think I did see that. I think somebody sent that to me. She did what she had to do, and she understood the bigger picture. Saying she saved others is true. You're right, Sexy Twerker. You're absolutely right. I can see it. Yeah, when you get pushed to a point, yeah, we do not condone vigilante justice, but when you're in a corner, even a wild animal will fight its way out any way it can. Not after watching these videos. She does. She really has struck me as being smart. Like just, and you got to think she probably doesn't even have a high school education. Maybe when she was in prison for armed robbery, she may have gotten her GED. Certainly when she was on death row, I can't imagine she wouldn't have gotten her GED, but just so street smart and just understands how things work, right? And how to communicate those. Look, she uses a lot of cuss words. So do I. So do I. And I have a master's degree. It doesn't mean she's any less intelligent than I am, just a different type of intelligence. She was smart with a powerful spirit. She didn't betray herself. That is a good way to put it. And she's the only one who didn't betray herself. Well said. Well said, Sexy Twerker. Imagine if she had an attorney imagine if she had KFA, Melissa. Imagine if Aileen Wuornos had KFA. Imagine if Aileen Wuornos had Gloria Steinem. Imagine. Imagine how this would have turned out. How much different this could have been. Yeah, exactly. Well, and she deserved to be pissed at the end, Lorianne. That's what I would say. KFA would fight so hard. So I think Gloria Steinem would as well. But we weren't there yet when this came out. We weren't there yet. KFA would be ripping. Imagine KFA getting a hold of the phone calls with those police officers making book and movie deals. Can you imagine? It would have been a totally different ending with either one. I agree. I agree, Tammy. And maybe she would have gotten out, and maybe she would have been an advocate for rights of sexual assault survivors. That's all I can think of. She had so much that she could have given to this world, and for her to just give up, imagine what the pressure was like, what the pressure's like being on death row for 12 years. Due to her career, it doesn't look like she was hunting. Otherwise, there would be more than 7. Good point, A.K. Gurgen. Yeah, because she did say she was making money hand over fist, I think is what she said. Is there a book that can be trusted? On Aileen Wuornos? Yes. Yes, there is. Hang on. Hold, please, and I will find that for you. So there is a Netflix documentary called Queen of the Serial Killers. And if you are into books, there are 2. One is The Life and Death of a Serial Killer, which is written by the man that you saw in here. I believe that's who wrote that. Yeah, Nick Broomfield. And then there's another one called A Female Monster, which is the book that the movie was based off of. My heart always hurt for her. She was robbed of her childhood. She never had a childhood, that's for darn sure. Give her 10 more years, she would be like Santa Muerte and prayed upon for protection. I hear that, Taya. I hear that. Netflix Queen of Serial Killers, Life and Death of a Serial Killer and a Female Monster. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that. So, thank you guys for sticking around through my all of my what do you call them? Those restrictions that I call. I don't care. It's worth it. There's still 82 of you guys in here, and I appreciate all of you. So I appreciate you sticking around. I will edit this and put it over on YouTube. So if you came in late, the whole thing, as soon as it's edited, will be over on YouTube for your consumption. Taya, I have never had anyone give me as many roses as you've given me. Thank you so much, my love. I appreciate that. You're welcome, Sexy Twerker. Thanks for sticking this out with me. I'm shocked that there were so many of you in the beginning that have never heard of Aileen Wuornos. So, thank you, Red Gypsy. I appreciate that. There is lots more to her story. Like I said, this is just kind of the outline of it and hitting the high points or the low points as they may be. If you guys ever want to go through the appellates, the appellate work that was done on this and the enumeration of errors, which is far and varied, we can certainly do that. Or if you want to take a look at some other interviews, there's plenty of them over on YouTube. So just do a quick search over there and they'll all come up. Let's all go to the TikTok shop. Thank you, Taya. Taya, thank you for being title gifter of those roses. I appreciate it. Thank you, EM6. Can she be exonerated now legally? I mean, a posthumous pardon for 6 death penalties, I don't think that's coming from any Florida governor anytime soon, sexy twerker. Maybe if they got a female governor in there who was blue, but I don't see Florida turning that way. So it's a valid thought, but I just don't see it. I don't see it coming. Thank you, Ms. Liz. Appreciate that. Oh, Florida. Yeah, exactly. Will you pin the name of those books, please? Melissa, can you pin you want to pin let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Here you go. There you go. Ask and you shall receive. Thank you so much, Melissa. Melissa and Jimmers, thank you for modding tonight. And Sexy Twerker, appreciate you modding as well. Thank you guys for keeping me safe in here. We were restricted, but we weren't shut down. And that's what counts at the very end. So, yep, I'm going to take off. You guys have a great weekend. I don't know if I'm going to be on tomorrow. I'm going to say it's going to depend on the weather. If it's nice, I'm going to sit on my patio and do nothing. After I take care of all the yard work during the day, though. You're welcome, Tammy. Yeah, have a great night. Have a wonderful weekend. If I don't see you tomorrow, I will see you Sunday night. So be good to yourselves, be good to those around you, and make good choices. Thank you again for all the gifts. I can't believe you got me at 115 taps. 115,000 taps. You guys are amazing. Melissa, I'm not talking about that. But yes, I did. So, I will talk to you guys either tomorrow or Sunday. Tats out.